So Mihawk, the character that to this day still remains as one of the most talked about and mysterious in all of One Piece. The man who has potentially more theories made on him than the actual One Piece treasure itself. And what's more is after 27 years of weekly One Piece content, we still don't know much of anything about him. Like, he could very well be One Piece's biggest fraud of all time, or One Piece's most powerful character of all time. We can't say either way with any degree of certainty. Now for years, claiming anything positive about Mihawk was essentially like shooting yourself in the foot or hanging yourself out to receive a pile of hate. Like, God help you if you ever made the claim that he is stronger than Shanks. Like, I did that once, and let me tell you, never again. Which is why, although Shanks will be mentioned a number of times in this video, this is not in any way a power scaling video of the two characters. This is quite literally just an up-to-date theory video on the future of Mihawk and Shanks, and how Shanks and Mihawk are not only sworn rivals in search of the One Piece, but potentially natural born enemies since birth. But now before we begin, make sure to hit that like button at any point in the video if you are enjoying what you are seeing, and consider subscribing for more One Piece content and theories in the future. But for now, back to the video. So I am working under the belief that Mihawk is the son of a pirate that was taken by the Celestial Dragons, and is in fact a former God's Knight. Someone who was not only trained but also raised by Shanks' own dad, Saint Figureland Garling. For you see, Shanks, as we know, is a celestial dragon who was once lost or taken by Gold Roger and the Roger Pirates back on God Valley. Which means if Shanks was a dragon taken in and raised by pirates and Mihawk was a pirate taken in and raised by dragons, then literally from the moment of their birth, they opposed each other. Now also, with a 4-year age difference between Mihawk and Shanks, it's entirely possible that Shanks being taken was out of revenge against Garling for whatever he might have done with Mihawk, who could very well be a child to one of the Roger Pirates, which could also explain why he was at Roger's execution in the first place. Now this would also mean that as Shanks is being raised in an environment of love rightfully belonging to Mihawk, Mihawk is being raised in an environment of pain that was destined for Shanks. Now Mihawk's connection to the Celestial Dragons is backed by the similar speech patterns found between Mihawk and the Celestial Dragons, with the Celestial Dragons referring to the humans they hunt as mere rabbits, and Mihawk referring to Zoro back at the Bratier as nothing more than a mere bunny rabbit. Not to mention that we also now know, thanks to the SBS, that Mihawk does harbour an incredible grudge against the Marines for a great betrayal that was committed onto him many years ago, one likely leading to why he is now known as the Marine Hunter, but we'll cover more about that later in the video. Now quite a while back I made a short form theory discussing the possibility of Mihawk being one of the slaves on God Valley, likely leading to his greatest shame being the scars on his back, tying back to the words that Zoro once said to him about scars on the back being a swordsman's shame. Now that theory was proven wrong in Kuma's flashback on Egghead, but I'd also like to present the possibility that Mihawk does still have scars on his back, just not from being a God Valley slave, but scars on his back from his days as Garling's pupil. Scars that potentially ache whenever the Knights are near. Much like how Shanks said that his Blackbeard scar aches whenever Blackbeard is near. Now I'd also like to highlight how every warlord at some point in time is also connected to slavery in some way or another, whether that be as a slave or just someone who sold slaves at one point in time. Firstly, Boa Hancock was a slave girl belonging to the Celestial Dragons. Kuma and his whole family was made slaves in one of the saddest backstories that One Piece has ever had. Jinbei and the entire Sun Pirates scorned and did everything they could to abolish slavery during their time as Sun Pirates, and Doflamingo, being a former Celestial Dragon, sold and used slaves to his own ends, even going so far as to use his devil fruit to push an entire town under his own thumb. Boya was a captured slave to Blackbeard up until recently, and Crocodile appears to have some sort of secret involvement with the former slave queen Ivankov, which of course indicates to me that Mihawk, if following this same pattern, should have some connection to the Celestial Dragons and their slavery. Maybe not being a slave himself like I once believed, but maybe being treated as one while he was growing up in Merijois. Now this would also give us some much needed context for the fight that I believe is coming between Mihawk and Garling. A fight that I actually talk about in this video, link below. This fight between Garling and Mihawk at this point in my opinion is all but certain, because outside of potentially Dragon and the Revolutionary Army, I just don't see anybody but Mihawk being both strong enough and just free enough at this precise moment in time to actually fight him. Now this whole thought process becomes so much more believable when you consider the theory that Sai thought up in one of his recent videos, which I will have linked below for anyone who wants to watch it in its entirety. In that video, he claims that Shanks and the Figureland family are descended from werewolf heritage, and Mihawk with his goth aesthetic comes from a vampire heritage. Now I know, like you, I thought this was really fucking odd when I heard it at first, but stay with me for a second because it does make a lot of sense in the end. You see, Garling is nearly always depicted with his head shaped like a moon, and after becoming a Gorosei, he will be granted an ancient yokai ability, one that will not only grant him immortality, but also a whole new form, an ancient yokai form in the shape of a wolf. or as it is also referred to as in Japanese culture, Okuri Inu, which, just as a bit of added information, is a carnivorous beast known for its fondness of devouring humans, which if you think back to Golf Valley is exactly what Garling did with all the humans that he was hunting. Sure, he didn't actually eat any of them, but the evil that he committed on that day could only be referred to as a massacre. But now, with Shanks and Garling being of wolf descent and Mihawk being of vampire descent, this would also explain their immediate disliking of each other. Because as I'm sure you're all aware, in almost every form of fiction, wolves and vampires hate each other, and are often depicted as each other's kryptonite, with most stories that I have seen showcasing the wolf's bite to be actually toxic to the vampires. But now on the fun side of all of this, Oda, who has taken inspiration from all forms of fiction in the past, has yet to truly incorporate anything with the massively popular vampire genre. Sure, there was that attempt with the vampire devil fruit shown in the One Piece Unlimited Red game, but that was non-canon material, so I don't really consider that Oda incorporating vampires into his story just yet. But now for anyone still actually doubting Mihawk's connection to the God's Knights, let's take a look at the inspiration for the God's Knights and how it connects back to Mihawk. The God's Knights, or the Holy Knights, are inspired by the Knights Templar, an order of 9 Holy Knights originating from Templar Mound, Jerusalem, also known as the Holy Land, which is also the same name Oda has given to Mary Joie. They acted as a military force under the order of the Pope himself. You know, that guy who is normally dressed in a robe with a big pointy hat. Reminding you of anyone? Now the knights were often dressed in armor with a cross-shaped symbol on their chestplate. Mihawk, albeit doesn't wear any armor, but is also seen with a cross on his chest. His sword is Catholic Church cross inspired, and even his ship has a cross-shaped mast at the back. Mihawk himself is said to be of real-world Romanian descent, which is a country with one of the largest Christian religious populations in the entire world, with over 85% of its population identifying as Romanian Orthodox Christians. So clearly Oda is trying to depict Mihawk as a church-inspired Christian knight, which if we put that in One Piece terms could only mean he is connected to the Holy Knights, because they are the only connection to the Christian religion that we have currently in the One Piece story. Now, as I also mentioned earlier in the video, Mihawk is also harboring a massive grudge against the Marines, one that is also believed to be the reason for his Marine Hunter title. Now, I believe this to be the case because of his military background, and as I'm sure you're all aware, after deserting any form of military, you are often hunted down by said military. Meaning the Holy Land, or more specifically Garling himself, would have sent thousands of Marines after his boy Wonder. Marines that Mihawk, who has likely been trained by Garling, quickly dispatched and killed like they were nothing. Not to mention, if Mihawk is in fact the student of Garling and the man destined to defeat Garling, then that would also connect us back to how Zoro was once a student of Mihawk and is in fact the man destined to defeat Mihawk. It's that whole student becoming the master kind of thing. But now there is yet another reason for why Mihawk is likely to be the one tasked with defeating Garling, and that is his role as Crossguild's true captain. For you see, the government have declared Crossguild as a major threat, and out of all the Yonko, Blackbeard and Buggy are considered some of the most unpredictable and dangerous of all. So it is my wild headcanon speculation that the fight between Mihawk and Garling will happen after the return to Impel Down. For you see, it is well known that both Doflamingo and Moria will join Crossguild in the future, because both of them were seen in this panel with Mihawk, Crocodile and Buggy on the day of Roger's execution. And the fact that Moria is currently on the run with Perona from Yonko Blackbeard means that he has no other option but to swallow his pride and beg Mihawk for protection. It is then that together this new formed Crossguild would go to free Doflamingo for some added strength and information. But given that Doflamingo does possess such information about the Celestial Dragons that is incredibly important, and Crossguild is considered incredibly dangerous, Garling, who's a very hands-on kind of guy, will see to it himself that they are stopped then and there, which of course will lead to that massive fight between master and student, Mihawk and Garling. And I do also believe that this is where Moria will get his hands on that frozen corpse that is below Impel Down, the corpse that many have speculated to be Rox D. Sebek, but that's a whole different topic for another video. But now with that, I think that's about it for this Mihawk updated theory video. Do you agree with anything I've said, or do you have your own thoughts on what will happen with Mihawk in the future of the story? Tell me all that down below in the comments, and while you're there, why not give us a like and subscribe? It's free, easy, and just one click away. But now with that, I'm out. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and peace.